brothers and sisters, as we continue living our day-to-day life, as we continue in this journey that started the day we were born, we go through different trials, we go through different problems, through different tests that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts us through. We also go through different temptations, we go through different sins that we commit, sometimes on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, and a weekly basis. Sometimes we commit sins and we don't even know that we're committing those sins. And as we know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the Quran to be our set of standards, to be our guidance, to be the book that we should follow. You know, when you become an engineer, when you become a business owner, when you become a doctor, when you know, whatever it is that you do, there is a set of standards that we all have to follow to have, you know, or to be successful in that field. And the second part to really understanding this is that you usually when you want to study medicine or engineering, or if you want to open up your own business and look at those different standards, what you do is you'll go to somebody who has experience. You'll either go to your professors, you'll try to learn from people at school, you'll try to partner with other people who have been in this business for a while, and you're just trying to pick it up. And as you continue practicing, or as you continue doing your business, you become better and better and better at it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only that He gave us the Quran, which is the standard, but He also gave us what we need to follow, or the person that we need to follow, the mentor, the professor, the partner that will take us through this journey, which is, you know, the Prophet ﷺ. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says and described him, and He said, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ in Surah Al-Qalam, and He said that you are on a high level of standards within this, on this earth, right? So He already established, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already told us that the Prophet ﷺ is at a higher level of standards. You know, the way he's living his life is that higher level that we need to follow, and that we need to you know, put ourselves in. So one of those standards, one of those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave His messenger was having mercy. He has this mercy in His heart when He deals with all aspects of life. So when we look at the aspect of mercy, when the Prophet ﷺ was trying to deal with the people around them, or around him, he wanted to make sure that they followed Islam. He wanted to make sure that they were saved. And the examples of those are plenty, one of which, when he went to this town or village and the people chased him out, throwing stones and rocks and mocking him and making fun of him, and he was really upset. He was sitting next to a tree, very upset, and you know, we know the rest of the story, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends the angel to tell him that Allah gives you this message that if you want, we can destroy this whole town for what they did to you. But because of that mercy in his heart, he said no. Maybe somebody from within their generations will come out to be a person that believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all what he had to do was say, yes, destroy him. I mean, think about that much power. Think about that situation that he was in, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him the power. Somebody had just beaten you up. You're tired and you're fed up. And you've been chased down. You know, kids are mocking you, adults are mocking you. And some narrations, you know, he was bleeding. So imagine you in that situation, and somebody comes up to you and says, if you want, I will take justice for you. Whoever did this to you will pay. Most likely the first response will be, yeah, go get him. Make him pay, make him suffer. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this story, not so we just know about the story, but rather so we can learn from the way and the style that he lived, and the style that he lived through his life, and how he dealt with those different situations. The Prophet ﷺ, when he dealt with his family, he was the most merciful when it came to his spouse or children or anybody within his household. When he wanted to take care of his spouse when his wife was upset, he would be there to help her out. He would be there to make, her suffering, if she was in pain or if she was upset, he would make it easier on her. And there, there's the hadith where, his wife would drink, and then he would come and grab the same cup or the same, utensil, whatever it is that she used to drink from, and drink from the same location she drank from, just so he can make her feel better. Because to her, maybe that's what really made her feel better. And we don't necessarily have to do the same exact scenario with our spouses, but we all know what makes our spouses feel better. There's something that our spouses know, or that little tick or that niche, that you know that if you say something, if you do something, will make them feel a little bit better. When they were traveling, the Prophet ﷺ will tell the people leading the caravan to be careful, because the women would be carried in these little carriages on top of the caravan. So he would tell them, be careful and slow it down, so the women are not affected as much, and they're not bothered as much. Now this is the person that led armies. This is the person that had hundreds of thousands of people following him, waiting for him to just speak something, for them to go and do whatever he wants to do. But yet, he still cared for the weakest section of that society, which were the women, the spouses. So where are we from what the Prophet ﷺ did to his wife or to his sisters or to our daughters? What is it that we do to deal with our spouses? How can we deal, or what are we doing to deal with our sisters or our daughters? How do we treat them? How do we deal with them? Do we call to check up on them to make sure that they're doing okay? Because sometimes they may not really ask you for it. They may not say anything about it, but believe me, you call and check up on them, that will make a difference to them. He would walk into his house at night and walk in very quietly, so he doesn't disturb the people if they were sleeping. So he doesn't disturb his household when they were sleeping. He would do everything that he could to make sure that these people, the people of his household, were cared for. A person that led a whole nation. A person that, conquered a lot. He didn't forget the people at his household. The Prophet ﷺ also took care of the children. He was so merciful with the children that during prayers, and there are different hadith and authentic hadith, that he would walk into salat, he would come to start a prayer, and he would want to make it a longer prayer. He want to extend it. He wants to give people that spirituality. And as he's doing the salah, he would hear a baby or a kid crying in the background. And he would automatically know that this is definitely hard on the mother, as she's trying to stand in prayers and her kid is crying. So he would make that prayer a little shorter, just so he accommodate the child and the woman. Where are we from that? Where are we when his grandchildren would climb up on his back as he's praying, as he's making sujood? And then he would very gently take them off. Or sometimes would wait until they come off. Unfortunately, we've become so, our image and our manlyhood has become so distorted that sometimes we think it's weakness when you care for the children. We feel it's weakness when you give children the attention that they need. We feel that it's weakness when we don't attend to what they want us to do. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he saw, the people. He wasn't he wasn't from the area. So as he came, he saw some of the men kissing their children, hugging them and kissing them and just having that affection with their children. And there are different narrations, different stories, but one of them is, the guy says, I have X amount of children, and I've never kissed or hugged a single one of them. And the Prophet ﷺ response was if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took that mercy from your heart, then there's nothing I can do for you. This is a mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us. And it's not children as in when just they're young. But as our children get older, they will continue wanting our attention. They may not like it, but they still want it. So no matter how young or how old your children are, make sure that we still connect with them. Make sure that we still give them that part of the mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And He was also so merciful with the people that wanted guidance. A man came into the masjid as everybody was praying or everybody was sitting in the masjid. And we all know this story. The man came, and at the corner of the masjid, he started urinating. Now think about this. What would we do if somebody came into the masjid and did the same thing? And all the Sahaba got upset. They wanted, those that wanted to kill him, those that wanted to beat him up. But he said, no, let him finish. He said, let him finish. And then he came, they told him how to clean it up. And then he took that man and taught him. Because he knew at that point that man was ignorant. That man didn't know any better. How many people do we deal with who sometimes they just happen to not know anything that we do? Somebody walks into your house with their shoes on, and they just didn't know any better, right? We get upset, we flip out, we get mad. Or somebody does something that we didn't like for whatever reason. It may not be intentional, but yet we get angry. We have removed that mercy from our heart that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Because as He said to the man earlier, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken that mercy from you, then there's nothing for me to do. I really can't help you putting mercy in your heart. Even with the people that didn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even the non-believer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He still wanted to give them guidance. And the hadith are plenty that talk about, look at the perfect example or the perfect story when they went back victorious to Mecca. These are the same people that had a siege around them for 3 years. They had a siege in the Prophet ﷺ, and many people died during that siege. These were the people of Quraysh that tortured the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and killed some of them. They're the same people that called them names. They're the same people that made their lives miserable for years. But then he came back along with the Sahaba, and all were victorious. And as they enter Mecca, he really didn't take the chance and make revenge. He didn't say, well, now it's payback time. He didn't say, now I'm going to torture you like you tortured all of my people. He didn't send his companions to say, go find whoever tortured you, go find whoever did you wrong, and return the favor. No. He let that mercy come out and control his action. And again, let's not mistake mercy for weakness, because this is absolutely not a sign of weakness. They had the upper hand, but then they chose to be merciful. The Prophet ﷺ chose to be the one that can teach those people how to be merciful. Allah subhanahu or the Prophet ﷺ, even with animals, when animals were slaughtered, when we want to slaughter animals, he said we have to do it gently, we have to do it the right way. وَإِذَا ذَبَحْتُمْ فَأَحْسِنُوا الذِّبْحَ. When you slaughter your animals, make sure you do it in a gentle way. And the examples can go on and on and on about how he was merciful with the animals. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. Ask God's forgiveness. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala ashraf khalqillah, Sayyidina Mohammad salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Dear brothers and sisters, these are just some examples of how the Prophet ﷺ practiced mercy when dealing with different issues in life. This is how he practiced mercy when he's dealing with his family, with his companions, people that he knew, people that he didn't know, people that wanted previously to kill him and torture him. But he still followed the standards. He followed the standards that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him about, and told him that this is what you need to follow. So how can we follow those standards? How can we practice having mercy? Let's think about the different situations that we go in or that we deal with on a daily basis. Whether you're dealing with your spouse, you're dealing with your coworker, you're dealing with your boss or your manager or your neighbor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us opportunity to make a choice. You have the choice to either be merciful and follow the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we have the option of following the path of getting angry and getting mad and letting our anger get the best of us. Because at the end of the day, all what we're doing is that we're being an example for our children. We're becoming an example for our neighbors. We become an example for the community that we live in. In the past few weeks, we've had plenty of snow come down. And I'm sure we have enough neighbors in our neighborhood that probably could have used some help, either with shoveling some snow, or getting their car out of the driveway, or cleaning their car, or help with something in this snowstorms that we've had. And if they didn't need anything, all what we could have done was either knocked on their door to make sure that they're okay, made a phone call, or did something to show them that we are merciful, that we have a little bit of mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And if we're done with the snowstorms, we're gonna have heat waves in the summer, where it's gonna get very hot. We may have a neighbor who's sick or traveling or have some issues and they can't, mow their grass. I mean, those things may be very simple, or we may think of them as something that's very simple, but the impact of what we do, believe me, will last for a long periods of time. I'm sure we have neighbors that delivered babies. Did we think about just taking a small gift or making a small dish and just taking it over? Can you imagine what that would do to the communities that we live in? There's one way to find out. Let's try it. The next time you think of an opportunity to show mercy, practice it. The next time you see an opportunity to practice what the Prophet ﷺ had taught us to do, what the Prophet ﷺ had showed us to do, and notice, the Prophet ﷺ never said, do something without him practicing what he told us to do. It was always with his actions. So if you want to tell your neighbors that Muslims are good, let's show them by doing it. Let's just not tell them, let's practice.